Welcome to Beyond Belief, where we cover all of the events involving Toronto's favorite Sons, the Toronto Maple Leafs, with your hosts, Adam and Donnie.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond Belief, a Toronto Maple Leafs podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is for the purposes of this show, the Leaf enthusiast himself, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
What's up, Leafs Nation? Welcome to Beyond Belief and a new era of Leafs hockey.
Yes, it is getting closer and closer by the day, but not close enough for my liking. And what a difference two podcasts make, because if you would ask me how much I was anticipating a new season, I would be like, I need 5 months off. But not anymore.
It's so funny. I wish they could hear some of the conversations that you and I were having just a couple of months ago about how we were bracing ourselves for maybe 2 or 3 seasons of mediocrity.
I was wondering, back then I was wondering which window I should jump out of. Which was where I was at, but yeah, no, much better place here in Leaf Nation, and especially our moods. The Leafs have been busy since we last talked.
Yes,
Donnie. So let's get right into it. First of all, some front office housekeeping to take care of. The last time we talked. Yes. The Leafs were without a head coach. Mm-hmm. That position has been filled, and it is the new coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs is Jim Hiller. The last few seasons, Jim Hiller coached the Los Angeles Kings, but he has a history with the Leafs, because prior to his time with the Los Angeles Kings, Jim Hiller was an assistant coach for the Leafs during the Mike Babcock tenure. That iteration of the Leafs. I believe he was with us for 4 seasons.
That's correct, yeah.
He was here for the year that we tanked to get Austin Matthews, the one we purposely tanked to get Austin Matthews, and then, which was obviously a poor season for everybody involved, purposely, right. Again. And then he was here for the first 3 seasons of the Austin Matthews, William Nylander, and that other guy, which will remain nameless, right. Era of the Leafs.
Let me just say one thing. If all this turnover proves one thing, it's that one player vanishing off this team was obviously not just the issue.
Absolutely.
Because this team has been kind of stripped down to the bare essentials, because there were so many parts that didn't work together.
Right. But Jim Hiller was here for the successful years were the year that the Leafs made the playoffs and played Washington in the first round, and then lost in 6. I think it was 6 games, or was it 5? 5 or 6? I think it was 6. And then the 2 years against Boston, where everybody knows what happens against Boston. You lose 2 times in Game 7. But I digress. Yeah. Back then, it was still, hey, we're early. Right. Yeah. There's still hope here. They're in the trajectory. I mean, the Washington series was great because we had no expectation. We were like, hey, the Leafs are in the playoffs in the first year of Austin Matthews. Let's just, whatever happens, hey, who cares?
We thought a deep run was inevitable. We couldn't have envisioned this.
Deep scars were inevitable, but something went deep.
Very deep scars.
It wasn't the run, but anyway, during the last 3 years of Jim Hiller's assistant coaching tenure, where he was in charge of the offense and power play. Our power play was, in those 3 years, first, second, and eighth in the league. And I'll tell you what, if we can have a power play of either of those three positions next year, we'll be much better off for that.
We're going to talk about the Calder Cup here in just a few minutes, and if the Leafs can have a power play similar to what we saw in the playoffs with the Marlies,
also a good sign, yeah.
Yes, then that'll be a good sign.
What I want to mention with Jim Hiller is two things. During his time with LA did not have the offensive talent up front that the Leafs do.
Yes.
Yes, they had Kopitar, who was aging in his 40s before he retired. They had Byfield, and there was one other player that was decent, but they're not on the level of Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares. And with
and soon to be Gavin McKenna.
Yes,
we'll talk about that too in just a moment.
Yeah. But with a roster that didn't have the pure talent that the Leafs currently have, Jim Hiller was able to lead the LA Kings to be a top 5 team in 5-on-5 goals for. They really focused on defense because they were, sort of depleted, if you will, up front. So their focus was defense. And they were, again, top 5 in the league in 5-on-5 defense. And, limiting goals against. So, again, if Jim Hiller can do, even if, let's say, he can take the Leafs to a top 10 in the league defensively, that'll be a
drastic improvement over what we saw last year.
If he somehow gets us into the top 5, then he's a miracle worker. But top 10 would be a vast improvement. Hell, top 15 would be a damn improvement because it'd be 15 points higher than we were.
Well, let me just say this, too. I don't think you can underestimate the fact that Jim Hiller seems to be kind of universally liked.
Yes.
Among the Leafs players. Mike Babcock obviously wasn't.
Nobody likes Mike Babcock at this point, except for Mike Babcock. And maybe his wife.
Right.
And the Edmonton Oilers, who keep hiring our leftovers. They hired Mike Babcock, and they signed Frederik Andersen to be the solution of their goaltending problems. Good luck with that. I just want to, this is not an Edmonton Oilers podcast. I wouldn't waste much time on the Oilers, but I will say this. Watching the Oilers continually hire what I call Leaf castaways reminds me of a promo of the great Ric Flair. Remember when Ric Flair was feuding with Macho Man Randy Savage? They had that whole thing with Elizabeth.
The pictures? Elizabeth? Oh, my gosh.
Now, there was a saying by Ric Flair in reference to his, flirtation or time with Miss Elizabeth. And he would constantly rub it in the face of the Macho Man Randy Savage that Elizabeth was his before she was Macho Man. So I will reiterate to the Edmonton Oilers, they were ours before they were yours. And they're all damaged goods. Never forget that, Edmonton. But that's enough about the Oilers. The last thing I'll say about Jim Hiller, and this is the most important thing, he has a great relationship with Austin Matthews and William Nylander. And now Jim Chayka is going to be very diplomatic and say, well, the players weren't consulted with the coaching hire. That's a load of crap.
Yeah, right.
That's like Jason Momoa saying, I wasn't playing Aquaman in Batman vs. Superman. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Look, I guarantee you, Austin Matthews and William Nylander were asked when the Leafs got down to the final 5 candidates who should be the selection. And I guarantee you they had input on Jim Hiller.
Yes.
And the beautiful part about him having a pre-existing relationship with him is that when they come together for the first time at training camp, they don't have to get through this get-to-know-you phase. They already know each other. They're already familiar. They know what he expects of them, and they can hit the ground running. And I like that. So I'm Jim Hiller was not, like if you look at the insiders,
nobody was talking about Jim Hiller as
it was Patrick Waddis, Jim Pavelski that.
Yeah.
Some guy from the Denver College program. Nobody had Jim Hiller on the bingo card. So he's not the sexiest name on the list, but I'm happy with it. And so
I'm just happy that we made the move, because there was some question about it for a while as to whether they're going to try one more year with Berube, and I was like, that's not the right move.
The definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And another thing is, so Jim Hiller has done several interviews since he's been hired. And and this is also what I want to get your thoughts on, Donnie, but two things that he said. Because, the first question that all the reporters will ask him is, what system are you going to play? Are you going to play more defensive? Because, he had a top 5 defensive team in the league for the 3 years that he was in charge in Los Angeles. Or are you going to let more free-flowing offense? His response is, the systems we can worry about once we get the full roster in place. Because what his primary goal is, first and foremost, is two things. Create what he calls a spirit for the team, which I believe is also him saying, the culture of the team. What it means to be a Toronto Maple Leaf in this new era. He refers to it as a spirit, and same thing, culture, same thing. So that's number one. And number two, he emphasized speed, up and down the ice. That is key to me, because the Leafs, watching them last season was like watching an entire movie in Zack Snyder slow-mo.
Right. Especially after the Olympic break, it was painful.
They could not get out of their zone.
Right, exactly. Spending so much time in their own zone, getting outshot 2 or 3 times by the other team.
So what's your take on those two sort of new principles from Jim Hiller?
Well, again, my take is that it sounds like he wants to come in, go up-tempo, increase the energy, and be, in some ways, the opposite of what Berube was doing.
Yeah. When in doubt, do the opposite of what they did last year. That's basically the formula.
When you're that bad, you might as well go ahead and flip it on its head.
Yeah. So I really like his philosophy there. And so that's the coaching hire. Then, while we waited for the draft, we also had the fortune of the Toronto Marlies winning the Calder Cup. There is a Toronto team that wears blue and white and skates on ice with hockey sticks in their hands that have won something. What a concept. It's the second time, Donnie, in my life that I've seen the Toronto Marlies win the Calder Cup. You know what that's like? That's like you're dating a stunning woman, okay? But she also has this 2 years younger sister who is very flirtatious, and somehow you're finding more attractive than the person you're dating. That's what watching the Marlies is compared to watching the Leafs. At least this season.
When I watched them win the cup, I thought to myself, the adulation that was there that night. I can only imagine how it would be around the globe with this team that has such a following around the globe. How it would be when the Leafs finally break that curse and can, win their first championship since, 6-7.
Yeah. And Donnie, also, the good thing is, if you squint, like if you look at the team picture, where they're all, if you squint hard enough, you can kind of fool your brain into thinking, hey, that's the Leafs.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of Leafs jerseys in.
And then you open your eyes and you realize, shit, it's not the Leafs. But I digress. No, but the beautiful thing about that is, future Leafs or current Leafs that are down there because the Leafs are not playing, making strides, taking positive steps. Easton Cowan had an amazing playoff for the Marlies. I think that's going to be good for him because there was a game where he made a mistake that cost the Marlies the game because he gave the puck away and Chicago scored and won the game in overtime. He called himself out and said, I made a mistake. Next game, I'm going to be better and I'm going to make up for it. And what did he do? He went out in that final game and had 3 assists. That's character growth.
And you know what I really liked about the fact that when they clinched, they were down 0-2.
Yeah.
That night, they were down 2-0 and they fought back.
Yeah.
And what we saw last year, whenever the Leafs seemed to get down, they
when they were down,
came
it was
back.
over. It was done. Yeah, it was like, all right, pack it in, boys. I know it's only the first period, but we're down by 2. Pack it in.
I was losing my mind, though, by the way. I got to say, in the first period there, they were robbed of a goal.
Yes.
That clearly went over the line when you saw the overhead shot.
Yeah, but...
And I don't know what the refs were thinking about.
Video review is not the same as it is in the NHL. The other person that I think really kind of took a major step and really changed the depth chart in the Leafs goaltending situation was Arthur Akhtiamov.
He had some incredible stops.
I mean, he was spectacular. Like his save percentage, goals against average, really, truly, like he won the MVP of the Calder Cup playoffs. Imagine what that's like.
Especially when you're getting interfered with constantly.
Yeah.
And like there's like piles in front of you and there's no whistle.
So he changed the fortunes of the Leafs goaltending picture because we'll talk about it in a bit. What's transpired. But you know, Donnie, I think one of the things I want to mention too is Easton Cowan, like I mentioned to you, the final game, all that pressure. You know, he's feeling bad because he cost them the game before on a mistake in overtime. And he comes up and he, you know, in a pressure cooker of a situation, he puts up 3 points. Now, I know they're 2 different leagues, but bear with me here. Do you know what player in the final 3 games of the Stanley Cup final, after having 2 months of a fantastic playoff and every reporter known to man was glazing this person like he was the second coming of Christ, you know which player had 1 point in the most important 3 games of his career?
Yeah, the playoff version of himself finally showed up.
Mitch Marner. Oh, it was so beautiful watching him wilt under the pressure once again.
By the way, congratulations, Carolina fans.
Yeah, listen, I don't like you, Carolina, but thank you for doing the job. Thank you.
I was rooting for them because they beat the Habs.
Absolutely.
So okay.
The enemy is my friend. That's the saying. And that's all you are, Carolina. Come October, I'm going to hate you again. But this is the nature of sports. But for now, well done. Thank you for handling Mitch Marner. And good job. You're not repeating the cup win, I'll tell you that much. But I digress. So, again, Cowan, great playoff with the Marlies. Akhtiamov, great playoff with the Marlies. The one to watch for me was Ben Danford, 20-year-old Ben Danford, I think it is. He came direct from his junior, stepped right into a playoff run with the Marlies, and performed fantastically. And I love this kid's drive because every interview he talks, he says he is striving, come training camp, to make the Leaf roster. That is his goal. It's not just, I'm going to show up, play for 2 weeks, and then just accept my role with the Marlies. He is going to try to earn a spot on the Leaf defense. And I commend that drive.
And that should be every player's goal.
Right, but the fact that he is verbally, at 20 years old, expressing it, saying, you know, I'm not just gonna say, hey, I'm happy to be here, I'm ready to go to the Marlies.
Well, yeah, the clock's ticking for every pro athlete. You only have so many years.
Yeah. So So I like that. I like that attitude. And based on what I saw with the Marlies, I think there's a chance, depending on what the Leafs still do with their defense, because we'll talk about it, but I still think there's a move or two to be made in that position. But I like that he has those aspirations, and that's what he's striving for.
Also, I want to say, Letary.
Yes.
That fourth goal, it looked like it was ready to sizzle through the net. I mean, that was
he's got a hell of a. I said it, he's got a hell of a one-timer.
Yeah.
And the Leafs did re-sign him to a 1-year deal. He's probably
Bo Grew also put in some good work.
Right, he did. So Letary is probably going to play for the Marlies again. But given what the Leafs have done in free agency and their emphasis on speed, I can see him cracking the fourth line with the Leafs. Letary, I mean. But we'll talk about it. So well done for the Marlies. They gave me some extra hockey to watch. I was very happy about that. And it just gave me hope that one day the other team in Toronto wearing blue and white will be lifting a bigger cup. So before we get into the draft in the second portion of our show, let's take a break, and then we'll come back on the other side and talk the draft and free agency, because the Leafs were busy.
Yes. Don't go anywhere.
I was trying to have lunch, and my phone was going off left, right, and center on Canada Day. More than the Leafs have ever made my phone go off before. So stay tuned. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and talk about all the moves that the Leafs made right after this. We'll be back. Need a pee break, or are you good to go?
I think I'm good to go. As long as we don't go more than an hour, I think I'm all right.
Okay. 3, 2.
And we're back.
We are, and like I said, we're going to talk about a lot of activity from the Leafs, from draft day through to July 1, which was free agency. Before, Donnie, before even free agency began, the Leafs made a move. They traded a 5th-round pick to Tampa Bay and acquired the rights to Darren Radish, the signing rights to Darren Radish. They then signed Darren Radish to a 8-year deal with a price tag of like $8 million. Darren Radish had a 70-point season last night as a defenseman. Last year. I don't know what he was doing last night, but last year...
He was busy last night. He had 70 points.
Probably, but 70 points in a season. He was the most coveted defenseman heading into free agency, and the Leafs got him.
And they got him. Also concentrated on defense in the draft beyond McKenna. But go ahead.
Yes. And what I love about Radish is this. He's got a hell of a bomb of a shot from the point. That is going to open up our power play immensely, because, look, it's somewhat ridiculous to expect a defenseman every year to put up 70 points. There might be a drop.
It's still going to be better than what we had, though.
Yeah, there might be a drop this coming season. But the fact that he's got that threat from the point, right? If teams are now going to worry about covering him because he's got that point shot, guess what that's going to do? It's going to open up William Nylander. It's going to open up Austin Matthews. So either way, sure, stop one of them. The other one will have a chance to score. So just by virtue of that, it's going to improve our power play. If he's able to cash in on those shots from the point, great. Our power play improves. But we haven't had this kind of lethal threat from the point. And I can't believe I'm going to utter his name in 2026. Kind of makes me a little sick, but since Dion Phaneuf. God help us all. The fact that he was the captain of this team, but I digress. And before that, the last lethal point shot we had was Brian McCabe in the early 2000s. So this has been a long time coming. And again, he's a Toronto boy. He chose to come home. He basically told, look, for Tampa Bay to give away, to trade Darren Radish for essentially a fifth round pick, that is essentially like the Leafs being put in the position of, hey, we're going to lose Mitch Marner, so let's get whatever the hell we can get for him anyway. And basically, from what I understand, the story is Darren Radish told the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm going to go to free agency, and most likely I'm going to sign with the Leafs. So if you can get something for me before that happens, try your best to do so. But again, there is that willingness and desire for Darren Radish to come home in the so-called pressure cooker that is so hard to play in, that somebody has to leave, and he experienced so many dark times, but somebody wants to come into that, but okay. Hometown boy coming home. I love it. What's your take on Radish?
Well, I mean, that might be our biggest signing in free agency. You and I talked for so many episodes about how the defense was the Achilles heel of that team last year. We couldn't get it out of our own zone, and it was just depressing to watch it kind of spiral as the year went on. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there doesn't seem to be any answers. And so they addressed it in the draft. They addressed it with this signing. You're going to see a very different looking team than we saw last year.
Yes. And so that's the pre-free agency. Then we go to the draft. And thankfully, the Leafs didn't overthink anything. Because it was a decentralized draft, means all the GMs were participating via Zoom or whatever the case may be. And so the Leafs enlisted Leaf superfan Justin Bieber to announce the choice of Gavin McKenna to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Thankfully, I heard that name, because otherwise I would be recording this from a padded cell in an insane asylum. But they chose correctly, and they did the right thing.
Yes. I don't think it was ever going to be anyone except Gavin McKenna. There were people out there, different places saying, maybe, Stenberg, but I was like, that you can't pass on a player like McKenna.
Right, I agree. Seeing the look on McKenna's face, the smile on his face, for the rest of that night, in every interview he did, was spectacular.
He looks authentically excited to be here. His parents did as well.
Yes. And like he's humble, or he seems, I don't know. If you'd like to come on this podcast and talk, hey, yeah. let's do it. But I don't know him, but he seems very humble, to the point where his grandfather used to take him to practices. His grandfather has a truck, or had a pickup truck. And he had promised his grandfather that if he ever made it to the NHL, he'd buy him a truck. Shortly after the draft, Gavin McKenna presented his grandfather with a truck.
Awesome, yeah.
The other thing, aside from being humble, is he's got a swagger, a confidence to him. Mm-hmm. Not an arrogant asshole Mitch Marner sense about him, but a confidence.
He doesn't seem conceited. I think he understands the kind of pressure he's going to face here.
And one of the things he said in his final message that the Leafs put out on social media, was, I can't wait to get started. Let's go win a cup, Toronto. And I thought to myself, I love his confidence, but don't say that.
Right. One step at a time.
For your own safety, don't say that. I love that you're thinking it. I'm thinking it too in the back of my head. But maybe one day while you're on this team, hopefully for the rest of your career, we can experience that together. But don't say it out loud.
I remember one time in 2021 when the Leafs were on a heater, and I was like, man, I think this might be the year. And you sent me a message back. You're like, one game at a time. Don't say that.
Yeah. But again, it just shows his confidence and his, so good on him. And then, the Leafs drafted 9 other picks that draft. I'm not going to name all of them because some of them might not end up being Leafs in the grand scheme of things. But I think
we had a total of 9 picks, partially because we traded away Brandon Carlo.
Yes,
and put it into that experiment.
One of the albatrosses of our defense last year. A real anchor that was sinking us. Not an anchor in a positive way, but an anchor that is, if you're a ship and there's too much weight and you're sinking to the bottom. I mean, this is a guy that would go down and accidentally block pucks with his ass. Not because he was trying to, but accidentally. But so, one of the picks that I will sort of highlight, because I think it's a steal, is Ethan McKenzie, who was partners with Ben Danford this past winter at the World Junior Championship on Team Canada.
Left-handed defenseman.
Yes, I think he will be somebody that the Leafs hang on to, and he's in his 20s, I believe. So it won't be long before he's playing for the Marlies, I believe. But that's the main one that I think to keep an eye on. But a lot of they chose a lot of defense. It chose a couple forwards and 2 goalies. And really what it's about is replenishing filling the cupboard, as they say. Because the cupboard was bare when John Chayka and Matt Sundin got here.
I really like the Alexander Bilecki pick.
Yes, he's another one that, another defenseman that I think those two will be Leafs in the future. And again, Bilecki has a confidence about him that I like.
There were some mock drafts that had him going much higher.
Yes. So again, I think.
By the way, if this is your I'm sorry to interrupt, but if this is your first time tuning into this podcast, I'll tell you, I'm down here in the southern part of America where hockey is a distant fifth. So I'm down here. I don't get the coverage that Adam gets of the Leafs, but I'm down here looking at places like Sports Daily and Elite Daily Face Off and Sportsnet and Elite Prospects, and everybody has like different takes on every prospect.
Yes.
It was like all over the board, with the exception of a few like Gavin McKenna.
Yeah. No, he was high. He was supposed to go higher, Bilecki.
Yes.
And the Leafs were again another steal. Those two were steals. I think McKenzie and Bilecki were the steals for the Leafs. And I think they will stick with them and develop them, and they will be Leafs in the future.
So between that and the defense that we saw from the Marlies, I think we have a good young, up-and-coming crop of defensemen for the Leafs.
100% absolutely agree. So that was the draft. And kudos to the guy. I don't know if you know this. There was a guy that they kept showing in the coverage, especially in the second round. Every time the Leafs would pick, he had a clipboard and a pen, and he was writing things down. And all I thought of was Jericho on the list. And I'm like, this guy! I like this guy. I kind of want to see... I've now followed him on the cesspool that is Twitter. So I might ask him to come on one of our podcasts and talk and see if he's willing to do that. But that would be kind of cool.
Sure. I just want to say, and I have nothing against the guy personally, Justin Bieber. I was like, couldn't that have been, Joe Bowen Steve Dangle, somebody like that.
Yeah.
Somebody actually into hockey. Not again,
but Joe Bowen did come on and make a video.
Yeah, with Holy McKenna.
Yeah, which is good. And I'm like, can you just come out of retirement for the first game of the season?
I was like, can he please call one game next year, please?
I just can't. It still bothers me that that's the way he went out.
Exactly. Yeah, watching him go, and I watched that speech that he had the last game, and it was hard to watch that.
Breaks my heart that he went out on that shit show that was last season. But anyway, we're moving past that. The scar is slowly dissipating.
Exactly.
With aloe vera cream that is also named Gavin McKenna.
The healing factor is kicking in.
Yeah.
Like Deadpool
Gavin
and
McKenna
Wolverine.
is one of those faith healers all of a sudden where he's like, hey, you're healed, and then you fall over and you get up and your ailments are gone. It's worth noting, Donnie, and I'm going to let you do this because you practiced it so long, that Gavin McKenna is a person, an indigenous person.
Mm-hmm. From the tribe Trondek-Wetchin.
Yes. From
my wife listened to me say that about 100 times.
Yeah, I said I got to get it in because he worked so hard on that.
Trondek-Wetchin. Yes.
Yeah, he's gonna say that another 12 times.
I never want to try to disrespect anyone's heritage, and I'm like, I'm going to get this right. But the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, that's a lot in that word. So
he's from the Northwest Territories, Donnie. Yukon, and Yukon potatoes are very, highly sought after.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was a omen. I don't want to take any credit for the Leafs making the obvious choice. But that night of the draft, well, my mom made for dinner sausage, which has nothing to do with Gavin McKenna. But she made potatoes, baked potato with Yukon potatoes. So I think that was an omen, for positive things. Enough about food because I'm getting hungry now.
I just told you before this, my wife is making some food, so don't.
Donnie's gonna go to the kitchen. Are those Yukon potatoes?
Exactly.
If not, toss them out and start again.
If there's a non-alcoholic Canadian beer out there, maybe I'll drink that. So
yeah, because I don't drink. Yeah, I'm sure there is. But so now rolls around. We get to free agent frenzy, July 1st. Canada Day. Now, you have to understand, the past 2 years, I've watched free agency in vain because Brad Treliving would sit on his ass for 4 hours or however long the coverage was, sign some rinky-dink fourth line guy that can't do anything with a stick in his hand, i.e. Michael Pezzetta from last season. That was his big signing. At 12:01, he got the jump on Michael Pezzetta because, God forbid somebody takes the fourth liner who can't stick handle. But we're going to take him at 12:01 and then did nothing. So I'm used to 2 seasons of nothing. I'm going to watch other team get all the players, and the Leafs are going to just twiddle their thumbs. That was not this year. Shortly after 12:01, I think it was 12:10, 12:15. The first signing was Jack Roslovic, who for the last 2 seasons played for Carolina and Edmonton respectively. 2 seasons, he's got 20 plus goals, back-to-back seasons. He played with Austin Matthews at the U.S. In the U.S. Development League when they were teenagers. They played together. So he has a good rapport with Austin Matthews.
I definitely think you see Sundin and Chayka trying to make Matthews comfortable here. Because, there was some talk. You and I even talked about that. What if somebody offers us a couple of first-rounders? Do we let Matthews go? It seems that the Leafs are really trying to dig in and keep him as the centerpiece for now of this franchise.
Yes, and I think, there is, if when Austin Matthews says he wants to win with the Leafs, I believe him when he says that. And if you look at the moves they're making, the Leafs are trying to create a winning environment over the next 2 years so that when his contract is up in 2 years, he'll want to re-sign long term. And how do you do that? You do that by creating a winning environment. And so Jack Roslovic comes in, 2-time 20-goal scorer, back-to-back seasons. The thing about him is he's got speed, a lot of speed.
Yeah. That's what the Leafs were lacking so much last year.
And he's one of those guys that can play up and down. He can play third line. But if you have an injury in your top six, he can slot in there and play and be a perfect fit. Like not a perfect fit, but he doesn't look out of place on the top two lines if he needs to be there. You know what I'm saying? I think he'll start on the third line, but that's just me.
And he's only 29. Still got some prime years left.
And it's a 2-year deal worth about $4 million, $4.5 or something along those lines.
I like shorter contracts. I don't like being locked into long contracts.
Especially when Connor McDavid's a free agent in 2 years. You want to keep,
Boy, is that going to be a fun podcast if that happens. But anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I think I may faint, and somebody would have to come resuscitate me.
I'm just saying, can you imagine a
hopefully
McDavid,
Megan
Matthews,
Fox or
McKenna?
Sidney Sweeney or something. Yeah. Oh wow. No. Now we're talking about a wet dream kind of scenario. Well, it's getting an R-rated podcast here. But so Jack Roslovic, and they refer to him as a Swiss Army knife in the sense that he can go up, he can do multiple things. They also said that about Kalle Järnkrok, but we all know that was a lie because he was a Swiss Army knife, but a dull one that didn't work anymore. That's what he was. Another one of the Leafs' big signings, not a signing, was a trade. So because Arthur Akhtimov played so well, the Leafs decided we're going to trade Dennis Hildeby and a third-round pick in 2 years and a fourth-round pick next year for Nick Paul. Nick Paul has been a pain in the Leafs' ass for 2 out of the last 5 years in the playoffs. Remember that Game 7 we lost against Tampa Bay 2-1?
Yes.
Nick Paul scored both of those goals. But Nick Paul is the Leafs needed a third line center. Nick Paul is the quintessential third line center. He had an injury playing the season last year, but before that, he's a consistent 20-goal scorer. He's big for his size, very fast, and he will forecheck you into the ground and get the puck back. He can play on the penalty kill. He can take defensive zone faceoffs.
By the way, I loved the fact that the Marlies almost completed that 5-on-3 penalty kill.
Yes, that was good.
They should have, actually. That was.
Yeah, they were very close.
I don't want to go back to the officiate. They won, so it's all good.
Let's not criticize it. I'm sure
there were no whistles that night at all, but anyway.
No, of course not. They put them away. But, so Nick Paul is, like I said, I wasn't expecting him to be a Leaf. I'm very happy that he's a Leaf. And he's done his media interview since being traded. He said he grew up in Mississauga, so he's a hometown boy. And he said, as soon as the trade was announced publicly, he said, I had 300 missed phone calls and 300 text messages from family and friends. He is so excited about being a Leaf. He talked about watching games when he was younger, being friends with Max Domi, having 5 or 6 Leaf jerseys. So he's very excited to be here.
There are many players, despite the Leafs' shortcomings in the playoffs, there are so many players who dream of coming here.
Yes, absolutely.
So the culture, the aura of the Leafs is still out there, regardless of how long the drought for the Cup has been.
Yes, absolutely. The Leafs also signed Colton Sissons, who last year went to the Stanley Cup final with Vegas. He was born in Vancouver. He can play center or the wing. Stop me if you've heard this before. He's fast. Takes a lot of defensive zone faceoffs. And is a penalty killing specialist. Are you sensing a theme here, Donnie?
Yeah.
Then they signed Teddy Bluger. Again, here's the description. Very fast. Plays center. Can also play wing. Penalty killing specialist.
So then, really, the Leafs flipping everything on their head. The things that they struggled with last year. Speed. Getting the puck out of their zone. Now we're talking about being able to kill the penalties. Being able to get it back up the ice. And because it was painful to watch how slow they were.
Oh, it was agony. Now, both of the guys that I mentioned, 2-year deals in the $4-point-something million range. Again. Then they signed, I think his name is Brendan Duhaime. He played on Washington last year. Fast, energy guy. Big, 6 foot, I can't remember exactly what he is, 6'2", 6'4", probably 200 and some odd pounds. Energy guy, hits everything that moves.
And boy, did the Leafs need that. I mean, how many times did we have, we had the Austin Matthews injury, we had the Stolarz injury. The Leafs needed to stand up for one another a little bit more last year.
And they did none of that. His mother is American, his father is from Toronto. So he is essentially Mr. North America.
I will say I'm a little apprehensive about letting Hildeby go because I think he proved himself to be an NHL caliber goalie, and I think the ceiling is not yet there. I think he's still.
I will grant you that, but again, to get something of Nick Paul's value, you have to give up something, and we had a surplus of goaltending for a reason. We'll get to that in a minute. But, again, I really like the Brendan Duhaime signing because just that energy guy and, physical, that lifts up the bench when the game is a bit of a slog. Now, it's also, important to note that if all of these signings have reshaped our bottom six, Donnie. So we have now, in my opinion, 2 dedicated scoring lines. Hypothetically, I'm just going to throw line combinations at you.
Okay.
The 2 lines. Matthews, Nylander, Matthews, McKenna, Nyes, Tavares, and Cowan. That's your top 6. Everybody else I just mentioned is your bottom 2 lines. So what do you have? You have 2 lines that your role is to score.
Right. And McKenna, it may not take that much time because the kid had so much speed. I have never seen somebody at full speed make a behind-the-back pass on the ice to themselves.
Yeah. I've been watching
and then score.
I've been watching the scrimmages in the rookie development camp that's been going on this last week, and watching him skate. I'm like, oh, look how fast he is. Look at the edge work. And like it really is. It's like hang him in the Louvre, because it's just a work of art watching him skate.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, I mean he can beat people one-on-one, get his own shot. He can change his grip in the flash, in the blink of an eye, and it's just amazing what he can do at full speed.
Right. And so, but back to the point is, the Leafs have designated scoring lines and designated defensive forwards and checking lines. As opposed to last year, where, hey, we're going to turn Max Domi into a defensive center. Really? Good luck with that. Matthias Michelli, you're a third-line guy. Nick Robertson, you're a third-line guy. No, they're not. This was the problem. And then, half of Austin Matthews' ice time, Berube had him playing against the other team's best line, which requires you to play more defense. Now, Austin Matthews, that's not your job anymore. You know what your job is? Go get 40 to 60 goals. That's your job.
Especially coming off this major injury. They've got to be a little more conservative with him. They can't play him night in and night out for the minutes that he played at times last year.
But again, now the beauty of it is John Tavares and Austin Matthews do not have to expend half of their energy playing like they're defensive forwards. Again, that doesn't mean if you get caught and you're the top two lines, you don't skate back and help your defense. That's not what we're saying at all. Sure. We're just saying most of their time is not dedicated to stopping the other team's best line. That's what the third and fourth lines are for. And so instead of playing a minute and a half of penalty kill time, maybe Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes only play 10 to 15 seconds at the end of a penalty as opposed to the first half of a penalty.
That's somebody I really hope they don't trade Nyes. I know that there's still talk about that going on, but
I don't think they will unless they get a king's ransom.
I hope not. He's another one, again, I think he's getting close to his ceiling. 23
years old, power forward, you don't give that up. Again, unless the offer is an offer that we can't refuse, to quote The Godfather, then I think you don't do that. The other big signing, which I kind of saved for last, because I think we got everybody else, right, Donnie?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. The Leafs went out, and the reason why they could trade Dennis Hildeby is because they signed another Leaf killer. 2 times in recent memory, he single-handedly almost beat the Leafs. And that is goaltender, 2-time Stanley Cup winning goaltender, and 2-time Vezina winner. That's the best goalie in the league trophy in the playoffs. Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, it's a 3-year deal worth $7 million per year. So $21 million for a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Vezina winning goalie. And I've seen 2 things from some Leaf fans. 2 complaints. Well, he had a terrible year last year. Great. So did the entire Florida Panther team that he was on.
Although they may not next year. Sheesh. Anyway.
Yeah, they won't. They'll recover. But the point is they had a bad season. All of them. And the other complaint I see is, well, he's 37 years old. That's too old. 2 counterpoints. When we signed Ed Belfour, I believe it was summer of 2002, he was 36 years old. You know what he did that season? Beat the Ottawa Senators single-handedly in the playoffs. That's what he did at 36 years old. And almost beat the Philadelphia Flyers. That almost put us in the 3rd round. Almost, but he did everything he could. The other counterpoint I'll say to age, and I get it was a different era, different time, but the last time we won a Stanley Cup, in 1967, God help us all. You know 2 things that we had on our team? We had an Indigenous player in George Armstrong, who was the captain at the time. Now it's now again, I'm not inferring anything, but it's 2026, and we have an Indigenous superstar, Gavin McKenna. And we also had in 1967, 41-year-old Johnny Bauer. He played without a mask, by the way. Talk about having stones.
I mean, age is a concern with any player, but a little less so with a goalie.
Right, but again, he was 41. Bobrovsky's 37.
We also picked up a couple goalie prospects in the draft, so.
Right, which is for the future. But, again, we now have, look, he had an off year. I have full faith that he'll rebound because he's that much of a competitor. I want to reiterate that this is the first time since Ed Belfour that we've had a bona fide number one goalie, a starting goalie. Well, we got Frederik Andersen. He was more of an unproven talent. He wasn't a bona fide starting goalie. Vesa Toskala definitely wasn't a starting goalie. Jack Campbell came out of nowhere, but he wasn't a bona fide number one.
We got lucky with Jack Campbell.
And then, I get the risk that like you said, that comes with age. However, wouldn't it have been just as risky with Joseph Wall and Anthony Stolarz as your top two?
Who both had injury problems themselves last year.
Right, both are injury prone. So then, let's say we had stuck with that, right? Then what happens? Let's say both of them get injured. Then you have to rely on Arthur Akimov to come up and be a number one goalie. He had a great year last year. Helped the Marlies win the Calder Cup. No, there's no disputing that. But I think he needs another year exclusively with the Marlies. And also to be mentored by Bobrovsky during training camp. And throughout the year.
That can only help.
Right.
That kind of knowledge, yeah.
So either way, whether the Leafs signed Bobrovsky, which they did, or gone with Wall or Stolarz as your top two, there's risk involved. It's more risky to start Wall and Stolarz as your top two, I believe. At least here, hey, we've got a bona fide number one starting goalie. And him and Stolarz were a tandem when Florida won a cup. And they're a tandem again. Now, see, you can have, let's say, Bobrovsky play 50 or some odd games and only have to rely on Stolarz for about 30 of them or so.
Yes, which could only help. Hopefully he stays healthy next year.
So, again, why are we complaining about signing a superstar goalie? Are we insane? Who else was out there? Are you going to do what Edmonton did? And we're going to bring back Freddie Andersen? We've seen that movie before. And look, yeah, he was on the Stanley Cup winning Carolina Hurricanes.
Congrats to him, by the way.
I have nothing against him, but if he had stayed in net before Carolina pulled him and went with Bussy, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what would have happened? Mitch Marner would have been hoisting the Stanley Cup, and we would have had to endure listening to his whining routine about dark times. Guy's going to write a book called Dark Times, the Mitch Marner story. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a copy of that book and wipe my rear end with it. So with the pages. Hopefully it's 500 pages. I'll have 500 pieces of toilet paper. But if Andersen would have stayed in net, we would have been enduring that nonsense for the rest of the summer. So, that wouldn't have been a good movie. Everybody would have complained, Andersen again, we've seen this movie. I would have been the first one. So who were we going to get? A bona fide number one becomes available and John Chayka says, you know what? Let's go get that guy. Because if we have a breakdown in the defensive zone, which, spoiler alert, no matter how much we've improved our defense. By the way, we got Emil Andre in the Wall trade. 24-year-old Swedish defenseman who, stop me if you heard this one, can break the puck out of the zone and has good speed up and on the ice. See the trend of speed? Anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Even with Andre and by the way, he's not big, but I can call him Andre the Giant just because of his last name, which is good. even with Andre and Radish, spoiler alert, the Leafs are still going to have some breakdowns in the defensive zone from time to time. Every team is going to. And you know what's good to have back there? A goalie that can win you a game by himself on occasion. Bobrovsky is that kind of goalie. The upside is far better than the age factor. Now, had they signed him to a ridiculous 6 or 7 year contract, I would have been concerned. But it's 3 years. And then, guess what? By the end of his contract, you know who is probably going to be ready to step into the NHL? Arthur Akimov.
Right. Yep.
So, the Leafs, look, to kind of but before we sort of wrap this up, what are your thoughts on Bobrovsky? I mean,
again, I think if he stays healthy, the Leafs made out like bandits. Again, I do understand. I always say that, the answer, kind of the overarching answer is always to go a little bit younger. But in this case, with this level of player, I think the Leafs have a good chance of shoring up their goalie situation and being able to, just being able to win those closer games that they were losing last year.
Absolutely. And remember, when Stolarz was healthy the year before last, we won a lot of those one-goal games because Stolarz held us in the games until we could score. If you remember.
Yeah.
Right? So now, if Stolarz is healthy and you have Bobrovsky playing at a high level, on the nights that Bobrovsky doesn't play, it's not a huge drop-off from your starting goalie and your backup, right? Because you're going from Bobrovsky to Stolarz. That's a pretty good trade-off. No disrespect to Hildeby, but going from, on a back-to-back situation, going from Bobrovsky to Hildeby, yes, Hildeby was good, but that's a big drop-off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we wind on, look, we've got Emil Andre on defense, we've got Radish. Those are two big improvements. I would still like to see another piece brought in on defense. I would like to see Riley traded.
I was going to say, I would like Riley going. I'm sorry.
Again, I'm going to try and be polite.
It's nothing personal, but he proved last year that he shouldn't be part of this team going forward.
He's the longest serving Leaf, and I thank him for his service. There were times when he played well for us, very well.
Yeah.
He had a great series. The first time we won a series in 19 years, he had a great series against Tampa Bay. I won't take that away from him. I always appreciate him for that. But you know what I can't appreciate? I can't appreciate him falling backwards and knocking into his own teammate. And then causing a breakaway that leads to a goal. I can't.
That was hard. That was hard to watch. There's been a lot of bad Leaf moments, but that was hard to watch. Hoo-hoo.
It's time. It's time.
Everybody has a shelf life,
It's time to say goodbye. So I hope that trade happens. And the Leafs bring, because I think Emil Andre is going to be part of our top 6. Okay. If that's the case, Riley can't be here. So there's got to be a trade there. And also, even if the Leafs don't go get a younger defenseman in the trade market, which I think they still might, they still should. But let's say they don't. Let's say they trade Riley for a couple of picks. Which, listen, I don't even care what we get back. Take a pylon back.
Right.
Meshing from the net. I don't care. But let's say they don't get another young defenseman. That gives Ben Danford a chance to make the team. I'd rather have 20-year-old Ben Danford than 32-year-old Morgan Riley who can't skate backwards. So that's a trade that needs to be made. And I don't know the likelihood of this happening, Donnie, but I'll just throw it out there because I think it'll make you laugh, and I think it's actually a good idea. Currently, as of this recording, by the time it goes up, he may be gone, but currently, as of this recording, Patrick Kane is a free agent.
Okay.
I would sign him on a short-term, 1-year, 2-year deal. A couple $1 million. 2 reasons. One, I think he's a great playmaker, one of the best American-born players in the history of the NHL. he's still got a lot to give. Austin Matthews would love to play with him, and he was one of Gavin McKenna's idols growing up. And one of the first two calls that Gavin McKenna got after he got drafted, one was from Patrick Kane, the other one was John Tavares. Imagine a line of...
I just want to interject. I love that we have Tavares here to mentor McKenna.
I think McKenna is going to be living with Tavares for the season. That's my thought. While he gets settled. Because Tavares is the father of all the young players, apparently, on this team. So imagine a line, if you will. Let's say the Leafs do sign Patrick Kane. Imagine this. Patrick Kane, Austin Matthews, Gavin McKenna as your first line. Can you imagine the damage that those three would do? And also, this is just for my enjoyment, for the sake of the fact that if they acquire Patrick Kane, I can then nickname Austin Matthews the Undertaker. We'd have Kane. We'd have the Brothers of Destruction on our team. It'd be fantastic. As a wrestling fan, I'd love it. And maybe we can hire a portly, chubby assistant coach, and I can call him Paul Bearer. So just for my enjoyment, John Chayka, if you're listening, I've loved what you've done so far. But just for my pure entertainment, sign Patrick Kane to a cheap deal. It's a win-win for everybody.
You think we can find a blue and white urn somewhere?
I'd make one. I'd have one made. I'd put on about I'd put on about 300 pounds and go to the rink with the blue and white urn. I got no problem with that. Couple of 3-week stints at a Wendy's, consecutive days for, maybe I'll get a discount because John Chayka owns a bunch of the franchises here.
Yeah, just keep doing the French fry dip into the ice cream.
Into the milkshake.
Yeah.
No, so that's just for me. It probably won't happen, but I just throw it out there. But I think the Leafs, to wrap things up, I think the Leafs have improved dramatically. I still think John Chayka is going to make a couple more moves before the season starts. But on paper, I think this makes the Leafs a legitimate playoff contender. Now, notice I said playoff contender. I didn't say Stanley Cup contender. I said playoff. Why? Because goal number one is to make the playoffs. That's goal number one. So, to sum it all up, what's your take on all this? How are you feeling, Donnie?
I think that the Leafs have addressed a lot of their problems. Whenever you have a lot of new parts, it's going to take some time. There's going to be some growing pains. But the upside to this team is enormous. And I like the fact that, again, we just did something and didn't just sit back and hope that things got better. Because even winning the number one pick, this team needed to be changed from the inside out.
Yes. And like I said, I cannot wait for the season to start. Like I'm already like, okay, NHL, put out the preseason schedule. Let's go. Because there's only 4 games in the preseason. Austin Matthews might play 1 or 2, but you know who's going to play all 4? Can I tell you who's going to play all 4?
Gavin McKenna.
Gavin McKenna's going to play all 4. And I got to tell you, just as we wrap it, I think this would be a nice way to wrap it up, and I can use the pen. I got to tell you, seeing Gavin McKenna step out onto the ice for the first time, and I know it's the practice jersey, I don't care, but he was wearing that blue and white maple leaf. He stepped out on the ice. That was the most beautiful thing I saw on July 2nd. You could have Sydney Sweeney, Megan Fox, Margot Robbie, who we got? Alexa Bliss, Anne Hathaway, Zoe Kravitz, the Pink Ranger from 1993, Michelle Pfeiffer circa 1993, Tiffany Amber Thiessen from St. by the Bell circa 1989. You can have them all stand in front of me.
You really do have a list, don't you?
I do. You can have them all stand in front of me from those specific eras in bikinis. And it wouldn't matter because the best thing I would have seen that day is Gavin McKenna's first time in a Leaf jersey. That's how exciting it is.
Yeah, watching him on the ice, the few videos that have come out of him on the ice, I have watched multiple times.
And you know what I did this morning? On a Saturday in July 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Independence Day, by the way. To all our American listeners. Probably it only consists of Donnie's wife, but hello. Let me know what you're cooking. I might come over.
I made burgers yesterday for myself and my kids. The wife wasn't
I
home,
definitely want to come over for that next time. Yeah, next time. Can you imagine me thinking of how long is it from there to here? How many hours is the trip?
It's quite a few. I don't. I've looked at the trip, which I'm going to make someday.
4 or 5 hours, probably.
It's more than that, I think.
6. Can you imagine me traveling 6 hours for a burger? Don't put it past me. I might do it.
As hot as it is here right now, I'm thinking about making the trip just to get out of this heat.
It's pretty. We're in a heat wave right now too, Donnie.
Yeah.
But anyway,
probably not as humid as it is here.
Well, it's 24 degrees here right now, according to my computer. But the point is, July 4th, I woke up at it was 9:30 in the morning to watch the rookie camp scrimmage just to see Gavin McKenna in a simulated kind of game action. And he had a breakaway. He almost scored. He made some, again, no look behind the back passes. I'm like, can we just fast forward to the preseason? Can we get going? And in case you're wondering and you want to get, here's how I'll wrap it up. Bobrovsky, his number has always been 72.
Right.
McKenna up until now has been 72. The matter has been settled. Gavin McKenna gave Sergei Bobrovsky the number 72.
Yeah.
Gavin McKenna has announced he will wear the number 92. So, for all those people that got Gavin McKenna jerseys before he was drafted and they say 72, you can either change it to a Bobrovsky jersey or change the number to 92. You know what I'm doing on my birthday in about 24 days from now, July 28th, whatever it is. I'm going to go to the Pro Hockey Life, which is a hockey store. I've got one of those blank, a blank jersey. You know the black ones that Justin Bieber supposedly had a hand in making? Well, it's blank. I have it blank. There's no name. There's no number. You know what name is going on there? A 92 McKenna jersey. That's what I'm getting. What were you going to say?
I said Marner.
You're fired. I need a new co-host. Don't send you the email. But no, I'm kidding. Donnie's great. But I'm getting the 92 McKenna jersey. It's happening. I can't wait.
I've already started looking online. Obviously, I have to go. It's. I'm a big guy, and it's hard to find hockey jerseys in the first place around here. So,
by the way, McFarland, Todd Father, I know you make those hockey figures. Hurry up with the McKenna figure.
I want one. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I want one.
Hurry up, and never mind. Make it one of those high-end resin statues. I'll buy it. What the hell?
I'm down with that too.
Because MLSE now has my money again. God help me. But there it is. You can tell we're excited. We're living the dream right now in Leafland, Donnie. They're making moves in free agency. They got a number one goalie. They got a number one left winger. They got a number one top two defenseman. Get another one, please. But right now we have a one, which is better more than we had last year. Things are looking good. Things are looking good. Get excited.
In the immortal words of Big E, it's a new day. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, indeed. Get excited. Preseason will be here before we know it. And am I going to watch all 4 preseason games? You bet your ass I'm going to watch all 4 preseason games. So that's it. We hope the rest of the Leaf fans listening to this and watching this are as excited as we are. I really have hope again I'm more excited than I have been. I don't even know when. Probably, remember when we came back from the COVID shutdown?
Yes.
And they had that Canadian division?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was really excited because I thought the Leafs were going to go far, and they did win the division.
As did I.
They did win the division, but then we played Montreal. We won't talk about what happened in that series. Or who made two really big mistakes that cost us the series. Mitch Marner, excuse me, allergies. It's terrible this time of year, the humidity. But that's the last time I was really excited because we had been deprived of hockey, then it came back, and the Leafs were seemingly really good. But now I'm excited again, and so let's keep it going, John Chayka and Matt Sundin.
Yes,
you're doing good work. Keep it up. Job's not done. More.
Yes.
I'm gonna be greedy now. More. I'm gonna be like Batista. Give me what I want.
Give me what I want. I thought the same thing.
So. Come on, let everybody get excited. Don't panic over the stupidity. Try and put the fears aside about age and all that. Look, I know it's a concern, but think about it. Right now, nobody stepped on the rookies have, but nobody stepped on the ice yet. Right now, let's bask in the excitement. All we have is basking in the excitement until they step on the ice. Then we'll see how it goes after the first period. Then maybe we can start being concerned if need be. But for right now, excitement. Let's enjoy it. Let's be happy. And let's get ready for much better things to come. God willing, because can it get any worse than last year? My answer is no. I hope. But until next time, if you want to talk with me or Donnie about the Leafs, and what we can expect and what we can hope for this year, you can on social media. Donnie, where do they track you down?
You can find me on Facebook or YouTube or Blue Sky as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk hockey. Let's talk comics. Let's talk the Maple Leafs.
I'm on the cesspool that is X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky. I'll probably post that link because blue sky, blue and white sounds appropriate. We also have a Facebook. I'm also on Facebook. You can find me there. We can talk about that on there. But remember, the Leafs are forever. From the first time they announced Gavin McKenna was a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs to the last. So long, everybody, and go Leafs go.
So long, everyone.